Sloppy Spoilers with your host, DT2. I'm not sure how to do that. All right, we are live. All right, y'all, welcome to this episode of Sloppy Spoilers. I'm your host, DT2 Comics Chat. We've got some stuff for you tonight. We're going to start talking about media presentations of Batman, past, present, and maybe even the future. It won't be so much comics, because there's a million Batman comics and we can never possibly review all of those ever. But we are going to look at films, we're going to look at serials, and we're going to look at some animated films as well. The reason that I wanted to do this particular topic, first of all, I have to completely admit my Bat bias. I'm totally biased because Batman is my favorite character, tied with Captain Marvel, Shazam. That's number one. Number two, I say it often, and what you'll see tonight will demonstrate it. You cannot judge art from the past by the standards of the present. Art is always a reflection of the time that it's created in. And just like there's going to be some stuff you see tonight that makes you cringe, I guarantee you that 10 years from now, when future citizens are looking at the stuff we're putting out now, they're going to be cringing. Like, what were they thinking? There's that. And number three, and that is that it's one of the few characters, Batman is, that we can talk about a clear evolution, because Batman works in so many different tonalities, which is rare for a comic book character. It's not impossible, but it's rare. Batman works as straight detective stories, works as crime thrillers, works heavily as noir. You'll see the World War II propaganda in these serials. Batman has worked as camp, and then Batman got really, really dark with The Dark Knight Returns, and Frank Miller is probably the only person that can make Batman so dark it's not Batman anymore, which is what happened with Batman and Robin and Miller and Jim Lee, so we had to kind of pull it back. But he's one of the few characters where across those different types of tonalities and types of storytelling, the character can still work. And I'm fascinated by that, both as a fan and as a writer. So again, when we go through this series, we'll be examining the many different levels on which Batman can be presented, and what we like and what we don't like, and what we do and what we wouldn't do, and all that sloppy, spoilery kind of stuff that we do. So my co-host, Dr. Steve Shadewing Sellers. How you doing, Steve? So good to see you, dude.
I'm glad to be back. I'm in my interim bat cave at the moment. I'm actually looking forward to this. I don't have like your bat credentials, but my favorite character is Dick Grayson, Nightwing. Yes. And he will be a big player in what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'm interested in that for sure. But yeah, it is very good. It's going to be, I think, interesting to see how the character has evolved, how he's changed over time. What he was in 1943 versus, what he is in 2021, how almost 80 years has changed him. And just, the way that popular culture has evolved and how that influences how we see the character and how that's changed over the last 80 years or so too. So all of that is going to be really fascinating to discuss, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Welcome to Jeff, Dr. Faye Bracey. How you doing, Bracey?
Good. And just to see everybody, I am repping some DC for this. Surprisingly, I do not own any Batman shirts, so had to go with the super one for that. Batman is not my favorite character. I'm going to be the DC heretic here, and my favorite characters come from Marvel. Spider-Man being first, Thor a very close second. But I did grow up loving a lot of the DC characters, and if you were asking me my favorite, it was always the Flash.
Well, that's another long-running debate in geekdom about the difference between Marvel and DC. You can't slap every character falls under this label type of thing on them, as you will quickly discover if you make blanket statements on Twitter. But generally DC characters have been elevated. That's why I wanted to do this study. Most people that aren't longtime comic aficionados don't understand that DC characters were not always gods pretending to be human. Right. They got elevated to that. DC characters were very, very much rooted in, if such a thing were possible, this is what it would look like, or as Richard Donner used verisimilitude over the Chris Reeve movie. Superman could not fly when he first came out. Superman used his thigh muscles, and you see it in the Fleischer cartoons where he's crouching down to leap. And you see what happened as a Batman tonight. This made me cringe. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. And so it was not always the case. If we were talking, even Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman actually is a fetish character and a bondage character, and you can't ever talk about that in America because America can't deal with that. But she was born out of polygamy and a menage a trois. That's where Diana comes from. And that's why originally, if she got bound by her lasso by a man, she'd lose her powers. Mm-hmm. So all this stuff about how these characters started, most of them were noir characters. They were crime characters like the Shadow and the Spirit, and very much rooted in the real world, and they could get hurt and they could lose, and they didn't think of everything. And so what they are now is pretty much gods pretending to be human. And they've been that for so long until now when people try to human up DC characters, it feels like they're nerfed. Marvel characters have almost always been broken people that got powers and their lives didn't get better because of it. That's not 100% true, but generally speaking, that's the difference between the two, because Marvel characters are based on the brokenness of the human anchor. Mm-hmm. And then the human anchor gets some kind of powers through transformation or accident or tragedy, or in Thor's case, through demotion, mm-hmm. something like that. And then they have to deal with the fact, now I'm broken and I can do all these super things. That's Spider-Man. So, so that's generally the difference between the two. But you'll see after watching these serials that it was not always the Bat God thing. That's a Morrison thing and that's a Miller thing, where Batman can beat everybody and outthink everybody and outsmart everybody. And there's always 20 steps ahead. And that has not been lifelong for the character. So I'm going to pull the first episode up. If we can, we're going to try to get through all 3 episodes tonight. We're going to kind of commentate as we go, because we're going to have a lot to say. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Here we go. All right. So chapter 1 is the electrical brain, and we're going to jump right in.
That's so 40s.
It is.
Like you said, a product of its time.
Now, that logo was Batman's logo for a very long time. Straight from the comics.
We're not giving any credit to Bill Finger, I see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, even in 1943, he didn't get the credit he was deserved for creating Batman. I will say I like the backdrop.
Yes.
High atop one of the hills which ring the teeming metropolis of Gotham City, a large house rears its bulk against the dark sky. Outwardly, it has nothing to distinguish this house from many others. But deep in the cavernous basements of this house, in a chamber hewn from the living rock of the mountain,
this illustrates one of the things
mysteriously secret
that I keep seeing throughout this series is like the bat costume keeps changing depending on the lighting. Here they go with the light blue for this scene.
That's right. Yeah.
They'll go for the dark costume, and I hated the inconsistency there, but I know why they're doing it.
I love the bat desk.
Now, let me hasten to say this is actually the first appearance of something called the Batcave. The Batcave did not originate in the comics. The Batcave was adapted into the comics because Bob Kane was on the set of this serial, and he liked it so much that he incorporated the Batcave idea into the comic. So just like, I've said many, many times, most characters' mythologies are piecemealed, or they're multiple source mythologies. And so most people you're asking about the Batcave, they refer to the comic. I'm like, no, this is it. You're looking at it. This is the first time we saw the Batcave, and Kane liked it. And so that's why we have it.
Was not aware of that, but it really added to the whole thing.
Sure did.
I love how the shadows of the bats fly around when they're in the cave.
As usual, everybody contributed more than Kane.
There's that. And like Bracy said, you're going to see his costume colors change as the episode goes on.
They represent American youth who love their country and are glad to fight for it.
They represent American youth that love their country and are glad to fight for it. All these serials, this is actually 15 episodes. We're going to try to get through 3 tonight. All these serials are heavily laced with World War II propaganda and racism. Just fair warning if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, much like the comics of the time were.
Right, that's right. That's right. And it's blatant. It's not like, they're not trying to hide anything. They're trying to make it clear because this was created smack dab in the middle of World War II. So World War II was, I believe, 39 or 45. So this came out in 43.
Yeah,
so you're going to...
Yeah, a popular tactic when you're engaged in war is dehumanizing the enemy, because it takes a great deal to kill another human being. So you've got to get people used to thinking of them as something other, and that's where things like this come in.
Yeah, Slavic Jap and all that awful stuff.
That's right. That's right. And there's going to be a lot of that in these serials. Again, fair warning. But also, I'm not down with the dad bod and the granny panties on the Batman.
He's
I'm not happy with his development.
That costume is still a little light too. Like, he does not look like the Dark Knight. In fact, in black and white, it almost looks whitish.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you'll see the color change when they change things or whatever. But yeah, that first shot of him and all that. And so I was just like, this is not the Batman I'm used to. But 1943.
Crime raises its ugly head to strike with the venom of a maddened rattlesnake. Batman and Robin strike also. And in this very hour, when the Axis criminals are spreading their evil over the world, even in our homeland, Batman and Robin stand ready to fight them to the death.
One other thing that's missing from this: any mention of Bruce Wayne's parents or his origin?
Yes, that's absolutely right.
No tragic backstory here.
Now, I want to talk briefly about, you saw them just get out. The first appearance of the Batmobile in the comics was in the first appearance of the Batman. He drove his little red car. If you weren't familiar with that, he drove a red coupe just like that, like you see, except it's bright red against his blue costume. And then the Batmobile name wasn't used until Detective Comics 48 in February of 41. That car was also red. Okay. And then the Batmobile with the bat motif, with the bat symbol on the front with the black and blue coloring, didn't hit until Batman #5, March of 41. So during these serials, you're going to see him jumping in and out of a regular car, which the first thing I thought about was like, do y'all have license plates? Do y'all trace that kind of stuff? Because everybody's driving the same kind of thing. But anyway, 1943.
Captain Arnold, please.
Not Commissioner Gordon.
It's probably a licensing issue. You'll notice there's no classic Batman villains or characters other than Batman and Robin in here.
And Alfred later.
Yeah, and Alfred.
No, Alfred's here.
This time I'm going with you. Calling car 67. 67. That's up. Go to First and Maple. Hey, 702.
Calling all cars.
Shut up. Dr. Decker.
Just love how like Batman and Robin can just hang out in broad daylight. That's the 40s for you.
No time for that. Don't forget, I've got a date. Let's go.
Batman having a date. That is definitely not Bruce Wayne that we normally see now. And he's smiling.
Yeah.
He's smiling, and Robin got that teen Frodo. He got that fro. What's up with Robin's fro? I'm just asking a question. Now, that right there. The symbol of the bat on their foreheads, if you remember, that's one of the things they criticized Batfleck about Snyder's Batman, because he punched them and leave that symbol. But you can see that's not new. Okay. And where Stan Lee got Spider-Man from was a character that had a spider-shaped ring. And when he punched the criminals, he'd leave the imprint of the spider on their face. So that is actually not a new concept. That's why you always hear me talking about.
This is a very Spider-Man thing to do. Spider-Man is very known for webbing up criminals, usually on a light pole with a little note, courtesy of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I was really delighted to see that Batman used to do the same thing here.
That's right. He got it from Batman. And so again, when you look at those Batfleck scenes where he's leaving the mark of the bat on them, that's not unique. That goes back to 43.
It's the pulps.
First two men of the Collins gang.
Yes.
I've been looking for them for some
Straight
time.
pulp.
The Batman.
You know, Shadow used to, not Shadow, the Phantom
Spider.
used to hit people with a skull ring.
The Batman, done you boys another favor. Yeah. Gotta put him on a course. You find him. I'll put him on.
That becomes a running gag through the series, how ineffectual the police are.
Now, I'm gonna throw this out. I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but I definitely want to hear what you think as we go. Okay, this is Linda Page. I got Andrea Beaumont vibes from this woman. As soon as I saw her, I said, this were Mask of the Phantasm. Got their ideas, because she's so like Andrea to me, like Andrea stepped off the page. She doesn't quite have her snark butt 1943, but she's there. But her look in particular, you know, so that's what jumped out at me.
I could very easily see Tim and Deanie and those people having seen the serials.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, I see it.
See what I mean? This is the date.
Come in.
Hello, Linda.
Hello. I'm just finishing up. I won't be a minute.
Oh, no, hurry. I'll just.
Now, I do like this, that he plays Bruce Wayne very well, I think.
Keep your hands out of
He
there.
looks better as Bruce than he does in that cosplay Batman costume.
Most actors do either prefer one or the other.
Yeah, he's very good at playing the carefree playboy. You know, he's not concerned with everything. Like, oh, you know, I wake up at the crack of noon, all that kind of stuff. He plays this character well.
Yeah. And that comes from Zorro.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Batman took from Zorro, took from the Shadow.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. Very clearly.
You're liable to carry that masquerade too far. Think so? Yes, I do. Why don't you let her know who you really are instead of letting her think you're just a.
Okay, Robin giving up the secret identity. No.
That is a Robin thing to do, though.
You think so?
Yeah, because he's usually one of the people. If it's not Alfred, it's usually Robin that's trying to push Bruce to be more human.
Well, maybe when he's in love, I guess. When he was in love with that poison ivy plant lady, he was going to give up being Batman.
Well, I don't keep people waiting like someone I know.
Oh, snark.
Read all about it. Read all about the Batman. Captured Cullen gang. Extra. Your boy paper. Oh. Extra.
Batman is certainly marvelous, isn't he?
Oh, I think he's a show-off.
Oh, everybody that does anything is a show-off to you.
I can do things, too. I'll show you. I'll call for you tomorrow and take you to meet your uncle no matter how early you want to leave, even if it's before noon.
Nice of you to make such a terrific sacrifice on my account.
A man dressed up as a bat clearly has issues.
Just for the uninitiated men out there, That technique is called taking an idea and twisting it and making him think it was his idea. Just so you know. Doesn't that look like Chucky Saul?
Mm-hmm.
That's Chucky Saul, y'all.
Another thing I've learned to appreciate about these old serials is how much they managed to do with like very limited sets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Very
can just
well.
they throw up like a quick gate there.
Oh, limited sets,
Make
yeah.
a prison thing like that.
She couldn't make it. We're going to take you to her. Come on.
Several rooms that they get in or just redress the same thing over and over again.
This is going to sound crazy, but sometimes I like watching retro stuff precisely because of the frame rate and the angles, and it's not so frantic. It's not like, music videos where, you basically mainlining Mountain Dew,
There's a definite appeal to different ages of cinema. Like, for instance, the faddishness of shaky cam. One of my biggest pet peeves is like the Bourne series started off really good, and then each movie gets so progressively shakier that I can't perceive the action anymore, and that just ruins things for me.
Thank you. He drove away with some men in that black sedan we passed back on the road.
We'll get in. We'll catch him before he gets back to town. Get going, Alfred. Very good, sir.
There's
I don't
Alfred.
understand why Uncle Martin didn't wait for it.
Now, this is something I appreciate from the serials. Like, they're always able to catch up with somebody who's got several minutes head start in the car.
Yeah.
No clear idea where
there they
they're
are.
going. All the roads are pretty much just straight roads. I've seen it in like the Shazam serials.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in so many other serials. They always manage to catch up to the bad guy on the highway.
I do like Bruce's car.
Mm.
I have a strange feeling that Uncle Martin is in some kind of trouble.
Look at that rear projection.
Do you think we can catch them?
Nice touch having them hold the hats because they got a rag top.
I love this.
Yeah,
I love
So
this.
Inspector Gadget.
I love that.
I'm glad
I
they
don't
kept
care if
this
it's
kind of
cheesy.
stuff in.
I
Like,
love it.
In Batman, you need to have some gadgets. It's a little bit James Bond. Although it seems like the bad guys have all the gadgets. We don't really see Batman have any gadgets in this series.
And he's supposed to be a genius scientist, right?
Yeah. But we see him later on. We'll see him working on science stuff. They make a point of having him in a lab coat and wearing rubber gloves.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 3 episodes that we watched, I never saw him using any gadgets.
Yeah.
Okay, that car painting spray wouldn't have painted the back of the car that well because it was coming from the front, but we'll just let that go.
Yeah.
My creditors. Because Bruce Wayne has bad credit.
Here comes racism, y'all.
Yes.
Since the wise government rounded up the shifty-eyed Japs. It's like
out a precarious existence on the dimes of curiosity seekers.
Rationalizing concentration camps, yeah.
Yeah, just
Yes.
In all of England and France, now the price of things is over 10 cents. 1 cent tax per Uncle Sam.
just going to inter American citizens.
On suspicion.
Yeah.
Not going to have any trouble with you, Monty, are we?
What happened to the whole principle? It's better to let 10 guilty men go free than to punish one innocent man.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of push that to the side during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Just a minute, folks. I know you two want to ride low.
Now, this little wax museum is pretty interesting because you'll notice that almost all of the exhibits are also war propaganda.
Yes.
It kind of looks like the sort of carnival ride sort of thing you would expect the Joker to have.
Yes.
Yeah. It's probably a little nod to that, but like I said, it's a licensing deal. They obviously couldn't get the other characters. And I love like this crazy shift. We go from war propaganda to like this native-looking dude standing here.
Yeah, and of course, very obviously Anglo-looking people playing ethnic characters.
That right there, the electromagnetic magnetic hand imprint.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I'm like, y'all had that in 43?
Yeah. That's very forward thinking in terms of sci-fi.
This villain is such a stereotype.
I was convicted, yes, and sent to prison. But if the truth were known, the fact remains that you have been dishonored. Exactly like our friend Mr. Fletcher here. An excellent architect.
I just love how he's trying to play the inscrutable Oriental.
Yeah. And he's an Irishman, if I remember correctly.
And may I also present Mr. Marshall, Preston, and Wallace. And they are...
One of the funniest things about all this is like even some of his cohorts here were like, I'm not going to let that Jap push me around, but they're willing to work with this guy to break.
Yeah, that's you better be paying him a lot of money. Is all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's funny, like the tonality of how they're working with this foreign agent, and but at the same time, like, but we're still American.
But also, he reminded me a little bit of the Dragon King from Stargirl.
I thought the same thing when I saw this earlier.
Yeah, he has a similar presence about him like that.
Maybe a little bit of Ra's al Ghul, and at least with the outfit. I would not be surprised if Denny O'Neil saw this too.
Yeah, no, they make it clear that they hate him, but they're working with him for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, because for some reason the government has slighted them all in one way or another.
Yes.
That's good enough reason, apparently, to betray your entire country. Look, there goes the racism again. You're twisted Oriental.
The twisted Oriental brain, yeah.
Clearly based on Fu Manchu. Another racist stereotype.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say for like Shang-Chi, it was a good call to change Fu Manchu to the Mandarin.
It was our first choice for the position you are about to assume. Unfortunately, he too attempted to resist the inevitable. Awful man. Don't you know me? What have you done to him? Deprived him of his ability to think. I've converted him into a zombie. He can only act as I direct. You will notice the metal headpiece from which a wire leads to the spine. Now, Mr. Warren, I would like you to look at this special microphone, the only means of communication with the zombie. When I speak into it, this slave gets the impulses through the headpiece and obeys my wishes. By this means, I have him carry out my orders no matter how far he is from me. Interesting. Well, return to your station. What is your answer? It's still the same. Marshal, what's that? Take him to my electronic laboratory.
My electronic laboratory?
Yeah, because back then everything was electronics.
As opposed to my organic laboratory?
Transistors.
I love the distinction they have to make. It's like, not my laboratory, my electronic laboratory.
As to what, my paper mache laboratory?
That would describe the set.
This is another great little trope. If you're going to be a mad scientist, you got to have your lab coat. So he immediately puts on his lab coat.
It's a mad scientist.
Fletcher, serum. Have you ever heard of the truth serum, Mr. Warren?
True serum.
Warden's favorite weapon. Okay. Mr. Warren, you were one of the men who endowed the Gotham City Foundation. Therefore, you should be able to give me the information which I need.
I will say another thing about the guy playing Dr. Daka here, and every time I hear Daka, I keep thinking of that bill to let illegals into the country. So
I keep thinking of more
that's like the
DACA.
illegal Japanese agents in the country. Like that's the worst, like Asian bad guy name ever, Dr. Daka.
Yeah.
But I like how precise he is in his movements. Everything this actor is doing is very measured.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I do not have to have the combination.
He's a good actor playing an unfortunate character.
Mm.
I will show you.
But he clearly put a lot of thought into what he wanted to do with the character.
Yeah.
Go on, the block. Get them out. This is the new order, secret weapon. Marshal, get their textbook. This weapon employs an infinitesimal amount of radium. Small, yet deadly forerunner of the atom magic.
A radium gun before anybody really understood nuclear physics at all. Actually, a couple of years before the nuclear bomb.
There's also going to be a lot of dumb surrounding this gun. A lot of dumb finna happen.
I mean, well, this was the thing back then. Like, that's another thing that sets these different media apart in their time. We had first it was the atomic energy that was changing everything. We had the giant mutant creatures, the mutated men, or the atomic atomizers, and then later on, these days we're all about like, oh, it's genetic manipulation to get superpowers or things like that, and they were all just products of their time, which is kind of charming in its own way.
Yeah, it's very B movie.
I gotta admit, I kind of dig like these really budget basement old school effects.
Mm-hmm.
I dig just one camera angle.
Yeah, it's kind of shot like old Woody Allen stuff, like big wide shots.
Now notice what he just established. He just established that thing can turn concrete into mush. Pay attention to that. We just established that.
I like that, but like you said, this isn't going to come up. But if you're thinking if you broke the atomic bonds of things, assuming it wouldn't just explode like a nuke in your face, I like the fact that it just reduces everything to powder because there's nothing holding the structure together anymore.
If he can invent this, then why can't they just mass produce this and give it to the whole Japanese army?
Yeah.
And then one other stupid thing that'll come up later.
I haven't watched some of these shows. It's pretty clear that I guess audiences were not terribly sophisticated back then because there's a lot of stuff that just goes unquestioned and probably undebated.
Yeah.
I don't mind robbing the safe. What have we got to get this zombie with us for? One reason is he's strong as a bull. Another is that Jack can switch on that magic eye and watch him. Us too, if we're close enough to him. Maybe we're going to double cross him, is he? Probably got that set focused on us right now.
Thank you very much. I'd like to know who the men were.
There goes that idea. Gotta get out of here and let them get a work done. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Everything's on schedule.
Let's go to work.
There goes Brennan with the Look, that's the guy we were chasing this morning.
We just so happen to see the bad guys.
How convenient.
Come on, I have an idea. The Batman should look into this. And don't forget Robin.
All out in the open with people
Yeah,
on
I
the
was like, we're
street.
going to shout that. Shout that on the street.
Wait, he gonna break out the car while they driving.
You're not even going to put up the convertible?
Guess y'all wasn't worried about that secret identity.
He did at least tell Alfred to put it up, but like, by the time you get to the alley, you're half dressed.
How did she know he was a bad guy? She just looked at him and screamed.
Yeah, like, why did she scream?
He looked like a bad guy, I guess.
I will say this for the stunt performers back in the days, like a lot of these guys had to be some pretty accomplished athletes because they were asked to do just all kinds of things. Climb this, fall off that. I mean, I guess that's true for all ages of stunt performers, but
how did you know there was something behind there?
When
because that's where everybody keeps their safe behind the picture.
Yeah, and the truth serum told him. He says behind the picture, I don't know the combination.
By choking the life out of you unprovoked. Why not?
Why not kill him?
Pretty much what he does.
Oh.
Wouldn't that destroy the safe and everything in it?
I was going to say, so now we've got a focus radius for the beam, and it does selective damage. Okay.
Now, he did say there were different power settings on it when they were just demonstrating it. But, like, again, it should be like a big hole in the wall, you'd think. Because the concrete block, he said he took out on the lowest setting.
But see, Robin actually looks like Robin. Oh, the old down the laundry chute thing.
So many windows get broken. Batman breaks a lot of windows.
This whole thing, you could have the Benny Hill theme, and it would work.
Now, I want you to pay attention to this fight.
Would the police not notice that?
It takes so long to reload. Why didn't they just beat the crap out of him?
They could have gotten him from behind right at that moment.
How?
Biff.
Yeah, where did they go? How did they get there?
Now, hold on just a blue-black minute. These men cannot fight. I'm not used to watching a Batman and Robin that can't fight. I want you to notice to this whole fight, Robin doesn't do anything but get his whole behind kicked. And Batman gets in maybe one punch, maybe. When I first saw this, I was like...
And, Dick Grayson is a world-class athlete starting out.
That's right.
But we don't have the history. They're just Batman and Robin for whatever reason. And one of the things I will say I like about these old serial fights is they feel like real fights with unexperienced people because they're just these brawls. There's no finesse, no technique. They're just constantly throwing people around and stuff. You watch the Shazam serial as well, DT, and you'll see the same sort of thing. Like I like the kind of energy of it, but it was done better in the Captain Marvel serial than in this.
Yes.
It makes more sense for Captain Marvel.
Yes, that too.
One of my favorite tropes is about to come up right here.
Has Robin landed a blow? I'm asking a question.
Here it goes.
Closed circuit TV, Jeff. How?
All right. Now they said in the car that the hat, the bell device on him has like some sort of surveillance camera. But this is one of my favorite tropes. Is anytime in most movies or TV, if you watch a thing and somebody's like, "Oh, we've got camera footage," it's always the exact same angle that we, the audience, were watching it from. And I find that to be so lazy that you would do that. Like, why wouldn't you have like a POV? Give us a POV of the guy trying to throw Batman off the roof. That would have made sense.
And why would you do that in the first place? Because having evidence of your crimes is always smart.
Robin's getting his butt kicked. Zombie dude. Batman fought Solomon Grundy before. How does Robin have a jaw left? Where is
How is he not rolling with a punch?
He's a circus performer
Yep.
from a child. No.
Because
See, this is where he would have the bat cable.
yeah,
I was so disappointed.
another trope of the serials. We always got to end on the cliffhanger.
I'm okay with the cliffhanger. It's just that the cliffhanger makes no sense.
Well, what's worse is when we get into episode 2, we find out how Batman survives.
Yeah.
That was cringe-worthy right there.
The Bat's Cave, Chapter 2 next week. All right, we got to go find Chapter 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's entertaining enough, I will say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not one of those things where it makes me want to turn it off.
And, you know, they clearly made it to fit their time, what they wanted to do with it. And it's like we were talking about in the pre-show that how Batman fits all these different genres. And I had said that Batman is the utility belt. He's whatever you need him to be at whatever time in history you happen to be.
True.
Not every
True.
character can do that. DT made a point. Like, you can't do that with, like, Superman per se. But, like, Batman is very malleable.
Yeah, he's extremely versatile.
I also very much enjoy the cliffhanger nature. Wait a minute. Did I start too soon?
Oh, this is
Started at the end.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning. The beginning is good. There we go. I also like the music. Didn't we agree we like the intro?
Yes.
Yeah.
Intro's really tight.
Although I would have given Bill Finger credit, but other than that.
Yeah.
Bob Kane and Bill Finger.
I wish they could have figured out how to make the bat cowl a little better back then.
Yeah.
Make the cowl, you say?
Yeah.
It reminds me of Scarlet Witch and Vision cosplay episode.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I like the Art Deco fonts.
And like Robin's mask is just literally a domino mask with like a little rubber band. I wish it was like tied off, like the Ninja Turtles or something. That would have looked better.
Previously on Batman.
And you see the cape and collar a different color here again.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, y'all can't fight at all. Why are criminals scared of you?
I like the way that Robin just lunges on that one guy.
Well, he does something fun here in a little bit. I like how he's going to hang out, and I like the way he ambushes this guy in a little bit.
No.
And
No.
just luck, pure luck saves Batman.
Pure luck.
No way.
But he's going right back into it, boy. No.
Climbing up ladders, still no bat cable.
Here we go. I love this. I love that he goes for a low leg tackle because he's like, I wasn't getting anywhere with my fists, so I'm going to take him out at the ankles.
That's something I could see Robin doing.
Yeah.
Sure. Some fight, wasn't it? Yeah, grab that gun. Go ahead. Come along, fella. You're going with us to the Bat's Cave.
The
Yeah,
bat.
here, take the dangerous weapon that can level towns.
Take off red comfortable.
Them shorts, though. That belt is too high. Them is old man shorts.
Well, and here's
You're
the
not
other-
going to blindfold him?
You know,
apparently
that
not.
like the gloves and the shorts, like they don't match the color of the cape and cowl. It's like if you're going to make these color changes, make them consistent, man.
Wait a minute. Don't leave me here alone.
I love the idea that they threaten the guys like, yeah, we've got bats in this cave.
But I always love it.
Bats.
I always love it when Batman uses real bats.
Yeah.
Always love that.
The open door. That's a plug joint. Who hired you? A guy named Smith. Medium-sized fellow with a mustache. Sandy hair and about 40 years old.
Yeah, that was a highlight moment from the Nolan film when they cribbed from the Dark Knight Year One or Batman Year One by Miller.
What's this racket? What do you want radium for? You're lying. No, I'm not. I only do what they tell me to. Don't press that. What do you know about this? That's what was used to open the safe.
I will say, with all the fighting that they do, I'm surprised at how well the bat cowl stays on his face, because it doesn't look like anything's holding it on there worth a damn.
I think the chest symbol looks pretty good. Being a very old school.
Mhm.
Classic, yes. They just left him in the Batcave unguarded. Okay, here comes some bars finally. That was convenient.
So this classic Batman thing from the '69 came from this show, apparently.
Yep.
Coming up through the clock.
I guess the bat pole came later.
Why don't you look at your face before you start bawling? Rodney Putnam, after an exhausting day of search, suddenly awoke from a different sleep and reached over toward the vase on the table.
Now here comes something completely reckless and dangerous.
What?
Oh my goodness.
There's no way Bruce would do that especially not as a joke.
First of all, could you possibly be any more of a jerk? Second of all, we've established that this thing turns concrete into mush, right? So he aims it at Alfred, and somehow the beam gets smaller and tighter and does even more selective damage. I was like, it's a molecule gun, but okay, anyway.
I do like the actor who plays Alfred, though.
Well, Alfred was originally comic relief when he was first introduced. He was heavier, and he looked like a spoof of Sherlock Holmes. So Alfred was supposed to be funny, like from the beginning.
Okay, so that's why this Alfred's played like this.
Yeah,
But
maybe this is the Alfred caricature. They made him tall and skinny, like on the Adam West thing, because he looked like, I'll see if I can find a picture. He looked like Sherlock Holmes would look if he was kind of pudgy and goofy.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
I will say that the style of his humor changed over time. I mean, he's not like vaudevillian anymore. It's very much like Jeeves and Wodehouse type humor now.
Jeeves.
Well, looking at this versus the Adam West Alfred that we'll get into, it's kind of interesting to see how like Alfred's very much the straight man in that show, because the show's inherently funny, so Alfred doesn't have to be funny in that context.
Can identify this man for you as an accomplice in the iridium robbery and the hospital murder.
Take my word for it, it's Batman.
Well, I actually like the fact that he wrote such a detailed note, because I kept thinking, like, Spider-Man catches a lot of people, but like, can you prosecute them?
Yeah, but you have to be careful because it's like handwriting analysis now and things like that. How do you protect your secret identity?
There's that.
It's like just all this. He just really gives his men the business there, and it's not necessarily deserved.
Captain Arnold's a jerk too. We established that.
I prefer Gordon.
I think I even prefer the Harley Quinn animated Gordon to that guy.
We lost our secret weapon. We can just rebuild it. Oh, wait, we can't for reasons.
We lost our DT.
Yeah.
Was there any particular reason we only built one in the first place?
No. I mean, I could understand that there's like, okay, we need a certain amount of radium to make this work. Okay, that would be a limitation. But they never established that. And you're having to do the work of the serial, to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, it's like, at least like in the Captain Marvel serial, the deadly weapon being used there was a one-of-a-kind ancient find. here, obviously, they have the technology to make this thing. So why not produce at least a few more?
Yeah. I mean, they're acting like this is the only one they're ever going to have. Well, why is it limited?
Yeah, I love the fact, like, in the start of the first thing is like, we need to get this more radium. It's like, oh, because then we can make a bigger gun. Well, if you can make a bigger gun, that means you can make more of the smaller guns too.
Yeah. And you can hide them better. I mean, you can't exactly hide a Death Star.
Well, all up until the Dark Age of comics, but especially up through the Silver Age, we accepted tropes into story, and that was enough. So we see the trope, we get the idea, everybody was like, okay.
See, here they are, clearly in lab coats, rubber glasses, rubber gloves, goggles, but we never get to see Batman doing his sciencey stuff. It's just a little nod to it, but it never comes into play.
The Blue Parrot is an interesting name because that name actually is referenced in Casablanca, and I wonder if they borrowed it from there.
Seems likely.
Okay, movie rule. Anything in the club is shady. Putting that on Twitter right now.
Yeah, there is a bit of stupid coming up, and that Robin does, and it's just unforgivable.
I like how Bruce actually, busts his chaps for that too.
Why are you leaving? You should be at least observing her. She hasn't noticed you. And then you miss this. Conveniently.
Why did you leave her? I didn't want you to lose sight of her for a moment.
It's like, oh, crap.
Yeah, there's smoke in there, but that's not unusual.
Right.
She's gone.
She's gone. And there's a weird cloud of smoke in there.
Robin, you're fired.
Yeah.
I've been looking up this other girl, Carrie Kelly. She's your replacement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to activate Jason Todd.
We're going, Bruce. Paying a little visit to the house of the open door.
Now, wait. Here comes the disguise portion.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the animated series, we got Matches Malone on a regular basis. But this is also one of the things about how you can see Batman and Robin go undercover. They still do it sloppily, but we don't see this nearly as much as we used to. This is one of the things I love the most about the character, and I love that they have it here. And the fact that the what's the word I want? Ironic is not the right word, and neither is oxymoron. The bizarre element is that in today's society, somebody as well known as Bruce Wayne could not possibly just put on a hat and disappear into a crowd.
No, he'd have to be doing some prosthetics.
Yeah. Although I will say, I'm pretty sure this inspired Matches Malone. That was a Denny O'Neil idea, I believe.
Well, I like this idea too because I'm pretty sure they cribbed this sort of thing from Sherlock Holmes, because he would frequently go in disguise and hang out with people who would have information, the dock workers, the lower castes in British society. And I really love seeing this here in this old serial that they include this sort of thing.
But I do believe instantly that Grayson could be a newsboy nobody would recognize.
Yeah. I was thinking of Billy Batson. Like, this actor could have played a good Billy Batson.
Yeah.
That too.
Looking for a room? I'm supposed to meet a guy here just waiting for him.
Yeah, that's definitely the prototype for Matches.
Yeah. Especially with the cigarette hanging out of the front of his mouth.
Yeah. He's just missing the mustache.
Paper, mister?
That's a Boston accent, isn't it?
Now that's something I found interesting. Why do they make such a point of like showing him counting out his change? I didn't find any reason for that in the film. You know, as somebody has shot and edited their own shorts, that seemed like a really odd thing to focus on.
They have no gadgets, but they do have communicators. That's interesting.
And they're huge.
First gadget.
There's that electromagnetic X-ray handprint thing again. In 43.
Room 50, third floor.
Okay, so I'm going to guess since they've got the scar on their hands, like they've got a disc implanted in their hand with the 5 on it.
Yes. And there's one guy that doesn't have that, and yet he goes through, and nobody questions it.
Should have been quicker, Bruce. Real Batman would have made that.
He looks so much better out of the costume.
Yeah. Well, the real Bruce probably would have been hiding on the ceiling or something, you know, using some ninja trick.
Yeah. Or doing a summer glow, pressing up against the wall.
Yep.
They showed it changing the car a lot.
Yeah, one of the few things the Snyderverse did right was Batman in action. That was a nice introduction to him when the cop is moving into the frame and Batman is out of focus, hanging out up on the wall.
Batman actually looks okay in this shot.
I was going to say, now the cowl and the cape are totally dark here.
Yeah.
And it kind of works. And this is the precursor to his cable gun.
It's weird. It's like they wanted him to wear the black during the night scenes.
Where was this when he was falling?
Where was the cable gun?
Yeah.
It was in the car. Notice he has not used his utility belt. He has it, but he hasn't pulled anything out of it. Not yet. No batarangs, no chemicals, no nothing.
Now, when he breaks into this apartment, though, he's going to be back to light blue, as if his costume can change color, like those old thermographic T-shirts that you used to get to change color with body heat.
See, I don't like the wrinkles all on the dead body. They look like pajamas.
Notice, too, how the cape gets shorter for fight scenes.
I love how they go in without a plan.
And look,
that's something Batman would
do. The cape is off.
What's Robin doing? What you doing, Robin?
Now, in the next scene, when we cut back to the fight, we'll see the cape is back on.
One thing I will give Robin is at least he's not completely a boy hostage like he is later.
Yeah.
In the animated series, he avoids the gunfire. In the Snyder universe, he's got Kevlar, and he takes point-blank gunfire. Here, they just don't use guns.
Or gas masks, apparently. Even though we know Batman carries them.
But every time he breaks in the room, nobody just pulls out their pistol and pew, pew.
Well, it's funny because, like, we'll see in episode 3 that this guy actually has a gun. And when he chooses to use it is ridiculous.
I mean, you would expect that they would be pulling out, like, Tommies.
Yes. Because they do on the animated series, the Gatling guns.
Yeah.
Now, having watched the Captain Marvel serial from about the same time frame, there's lots of guns being pulled out there. Why? Because Captain Marvel is invulnerable. But because Batman's not, we can't pull out the guns.
Was it nighttime on the rope and daytime on the ground?
Yep. That was a pickup shot.
Yeah. Yeah, the editing is kind of all over the place on this one.
Yeah, it's very Tim Burton, not Tim Burton. Ed Wood.
Yeah.
All right, here we come with number 3. And well, there you are. Okay, font's different.
Mark of the Zombies.
But I still found myself intrigued and wanting to see more.
Yeah.
Even after all the nitpicks or whatever that I was doing, I was like, but I still enjoy this for some strange reason.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, there's an
gonna-
earnestness about it. I mean, they're into this, the actors and everyone else.
That's a good word, Steve. Earnestness. They're definitely taking it seriously.
Yeah, I'm planning on going back in and finishing out the serial.
Yeah, I kind of want to too.
Same.
The Mark of the Zombies. Are we gonna see Rick and Daryl?
Daka and his New Order conspirators have lost their secret and powerful radium gun.
And can't rebuild them for some reason.
I was like, I don't have the one move.
Boff, pow.
I love it. Everybody just swings with haymakers.
Watch that door. I'll cover the window from upstairs.
You do realize they got in through the window. They can escape the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys out there on the internet, check out the Captain Marvel or Shazam serial. I forget which they've named it. But the fights are a lot more entertaining there. They do more interesting things, a lot more energetic. Like Captain Marvel even does this really cool move one time where he does a backflip to kick 2 people in the face. I love the physicality of that.
I loved everything about those serials, man. I love the costume. I love the special effects.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah, nobody's electrocuted again for some reason.
Yeah, like he shorts out the wires, but it doesn't just electrocute you immediately. Slow. Yeah, here's the gun.
Now we use the gun.
When I could have.
Where
shot
was
him
it before?
He's moving at a snail's pace on these wires. I could have shot him then, but no.
Right.
Yeah, when you were at close range. Instead, you kill it out when he's like way down there.
I did my best, but I forgot to pull out the gun until the very last second.
Well, clearly his best wasn't good enough.
You know, if this had just been like a decade or so later, like the boss would have just killed him in front of the henchmen to make an example of failure. But that doesn't happen.
Yep.
See, I really expected right here. He's so upset with this guy. He's failed him twice. He should have just made him a zombie too.
Yeah.
Turn him into another drone. That would get the point across.
True.
Would certainly keep them in line.
Mm-hmm. Not your electric laboratory?
There is a bit of Mystery Science Theater appeal to these serials too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just cheesy enough that you can kind of laugh along with it.
Yeah. I always love his very weak attempts to escape.
I suggest that you adopt an attitude of fatalistic resignation.
You underestimate the American will to fight, Jacob. We fight best on the face of your so-called heaven.
Oh, you do? Well, we shall see about that.
He says that after his very weak attempt to escape.
Americans love to fight. Ben.
Rest at the bell.
Because for no reason at all, I need my rubber gloves. Here's something I do like about these older films from the 30s and 40s. I love the gadgetry. It's so visually appealing, and when he starts playing with the electronic devices over there, it kind of takes me back to 39 and Frankenstein. Not on the same level, of course, but I love the lights and the electric sounds and the spinning devices and everything. It's just so much fun.
That apparatus looks like it could be like a spacesuit or a UFO thing.
Heck, it might have been a UFO on a different shoot.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand how the whole head have not exploded.
I'm wondering how the poor actor is breathing with all that smoke in his face.
I think part of the front faceplate might have been open.
I think the idea is to make him breathe the gas. I don't know.
What up, dog?
In the name of love.
Just heard police raided the house of the open door. But unfortunately, they found nothing suspicious.
I didn't think they would. Our only chance now, the ad we put in the papers.
Think it'll work?
I hope so.
Oh, the Cave of Horrors, my
Japanese Cave of Horrors.
It's just so doggone racist.
That's
Just so unapologetic.
That's good. That's all right. Please stay home for the night and day for the narration, my friend. Please feel it's our patriotic duty to show the public how
I guess that last stooge who's faking is supposed to be a Pacific Islander.
I just love how the secret, Japanese conspiracy is hiding behind this whole, racist anti-Japanese,
They'll never
Cave of
think to work
Horrors.
for us there. Talk about hiding in plain sight.
Okay, yeah.
Good news, Chief. I had a group
That guy's
Oh,
more
see.
Batman.
He's ready to take people out if they don't belong. That's why he's got the clubby club.
Yep. I can appreciate the fact that he's actually more fit than Batman.
What also is very striking to me about how clearly the focus is not on the action, but just more on the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whatever we need to tell the story is what we get. And that's very strange based on what I've seen most of my life. Not bad, just strange or different.
Yeah. Did that guy have a 5 in his finger?
I think I didn't notice it on the other time that we saw that at that angle, so I think that's only inserted in the close-ups.
Yeah. That needed to be established, because otherwise, why is the guy outside not clubbing him over with the bat?
Obviously, the Batman had time to set a trap for us. We will catch him in his own net. Since he expects us at 10, we will surprise.
And that's another thing that's like, I understand this is made for a particular audience or a particular time, but like when you club Robin on the street, why didn't you finish him off?
Yeah.
Whack him a few more times in the head. Make sure he's not getting up.
Take that along in case we don't get the gun. Yes, and remember,
That's again another thing I would notice with the Captain Marvel serial is they would put even Captain Marvel in situations where you thought they're like, oh, he's actually going to get killed. People would actively try and kill him, whereas they don't try and kill Batman and Robin so much. Not in a really proactive sort of way.
Well, they seem to be more focused on fighting them off and getting away more than anything else.
Yeah.
Master of Stealth.
Snap in, they may be here anytime.
Oh, yeah. But it's only 9 o'clock, sir.
I know, but they might be here ahead of time to catch you snapping. Get ready to do your stuff.
Could you find a better hiding place?
No, it's my trademark is smashing through windows. Yeah, finish the job. Nope.
We haven't got time to wait.
He won't wake up anytime appropriate.
Yeah, I'm not going to shoot him while he's down. That wouldn't be sporting.
That's something that makes me wonder about the old, like the New York system of these. What do you call these ladders on the sides of buildings? I forgot.
Fire escapes.
Fire escapes. So like, why weren't they always just lowered to the ground if all you needed was somebody who could just jump up and grab the doggone thing anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Because it would get on people's nerves having to walk around them. Probably.
Now, if you could describe it to me.
That makes sense. They're on the sidewalk, yeah.
We'll just skip the description number 1. Hand it over.
It's like if it's a safety feature, the only thing it's defeating are like children.
I love how the blinds are open and the guy can't see him.
Batman's right next to you.
Well, it's like hiding in the racist wax museum. You'll never think to look for him out there outside the window, no matter how many windows he breaks through. Oh. Guy was actually about to do the smart thing, interrupted by Robin.
Robin don't have but one move.
And that move is getting punched. That was a terrible landing.
Yeah, he's a circus performer. He should be able to land on his feet.
That dude almost ate it. The guy jumped on the chair there to go after Robin. He ate it a little bit. That stunt did not go well.
Once again, Batman is flat on his back, getting beat up, about to get thrown out the window.
Yes, I'm being murdered here.
You know, watching this, I just feel like there are no second takes, that this is all done in one.
Probably.
There's no choreography. They probably said, just go for it.
Yeah.
It's a free-for-all. This is ridiculous.
This is hilarious.
I am pretty sure that he fires off more shots than should be in that gun.
Yeah.
But he fires them randomly. I'm like,
how does he not shoot Batman and Robin along with everybody else?
You do realize you could have shot your own team, right?
I love how they mess with him here. It's like, how many did you kill? 7, but there are only 4.
What's wrong with that utility belt, though?
Yeah, you shot him twice. That was great. I actually thought that was funny.
Convenient note is convenient.
Yeah. I will also add, it's like, well, the one person who brings the gun and is the dude that's living in the place. It's not any of the crooks.
But Alfred is just straight comic relief in this.
I think the difference now is that he has a lot more dignity. He can be funny, but he's a dignified character.
I like how he grew up to be that kind of sardonic voice of reason.
Yeah. And also the father figure to Bruce, which he wasn't at this time.
Mm-hmm.
True. He was just a butler. That's very, very true. I thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he maintains that professional relationship, but it's pretty clear what their relationship really is.
Robin was driving. Did y'all miss that? And Batman was shotgun?
Yeah, I had noticed that the first time I watched this.
Well, remember in the first episode when they took off after tying up the guy's light pole, Robin was driving there too.
I guess he got bat driving lessons. I have no idea.
Did you have to be 16 back then?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Okay, now
I love the.
I'm just saying the crosscuts of this train.
I gotta admit, growing up in the age I did, I love seeing miniature work, and so this is really fun for me.
Yeah, okay, but this train should have smashed them 6 ways to Sunday the way as fast as it's going and as close as it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is like one of the oldest tropes in the book. Oh my God, the train is coming for our hero. What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
This sort of thing still happens. I was watching the behind the scenes of the Hobbit movies, and Smaug is 150 feet head to tail. And they were talking about when they put him, for some reason, when they made the Dwarven Forge, and the dwarves are in there trying to set their booby trap, he could cross that area in like 3 steps, and they had to keep resetting the dragon because otherwise he'd just be on the dwarves. So they kept cheating the distance there too.
Mm-hmm.
So it still happens. Still happens in cinema.
I'm just waiting for the villain, twirling his mustache while the train is coming. With the woman tied to the tracks. It's the only thing this is missing.
True. See, you reminded me of Penelope Pitstop with that one. It's not the Whiplash.
I'll save you, Nell.
That's Dudley Do-Right.
I know, but Snidely Whiplash just made me think of that.
Horrible pet alligators.
She has pet alligators.
All she does is get kidnapped.
Yeah. Typical love interest.
That's all the ladies were good for back in the day.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Have that damsel in distress.
All right. So real briefly, we kind of commented as we went, but this is what I was talking about when I was talking about evolution of a character and art reflecting its time, because clearly it did in a very real way. It's so funny to me now about how their idea of an action sequence was basically a bar brawl at best. And it was the funniest thing was how the narrator kept talking about how they feared Batman, but the serials don't give you a real reason why they would, because he got his butt kicked every time and got thrown off the roof in the first one. And Robin got in maybe 1 or 2 right crosses per fight, and he keeps getting hit. And they just had that Rocky factor where they kept bouncing back.
The bad guys never actually seemed to be in fear of Batman. They seemed to treat him as an annoyance. The Batman interfered again. That's right.
That's right. And
Curse is foiled again.
Right. And so none of the enhancements or accoutrements that we're used to now are there. And then, but again, they did invent the Batcave. We'll give them that. Best thing to come from this is definitely the Batcave. And the only time he actually uses intimidation is where he threatens to leave the criminal in the cave with the bats. Mm-hmm. But intimidation does not seem to come from his presence.
Because even in those earliest comics, we saw Batman using fear and intimidation. So it's kind of surprising they took that element out of this.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe...
they seem to treat them like they're government agents of some kind, rather than, urban vigilantes, that are out for, to get justice for Batman's parents or whatever.
Yeah, because they do that. They make when they're first in the doctor's office with the love interest, they do make a question, but like, what would you tell her about your your service? Like, oh, we're on our secret mission for the government. So like, is Batman here a government invention?
Hmm.
But they never touch on it again.
Yeah.
And that's the way these things are. Like, you will just drop a nugget and you never have to go back to it.
Right. You'll drop a story point or a plot point and you can just mention it and then act like it didn't happen or it had no real significance. And the other thing here is it's almost just wall-to-wall tropes.
Mm-hmm.
It's always just thrown together tropes, like you would sew a chicken leg on a piece of steak and, call that whatever that is wall-to-wall tropes.
Cow ducking.
It's very typical of the things that you would find in the 40s, and particularly in serials of that type.
Yeah, they're all there. Threats from the train. Like you said, the only thing missing is a woman being tied down and the love interest. She gets kidnapped and all types of gas, all types of knockout gas and all types of advanced gadgetry and all that. Definitely very much in the time, but also the World War II propaganda and the hatred for Japanese people and no black people at all, which I'm kind of glad about because I would have hated to see what they would have done.
In the 1940s, yeah, you probably wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah, no, I would have hated to see how that would have played out in that time if they had any African Americans in there at all. Mm-hmm. But again, the way that the character is flexible enough and malleable enough, as Bracy said, to fit in these different kind of scenarios is still fascinating to me because I do want to watch the rest of them. And I'm still very much interested, even though it's very far removed from any type of Batman that I know, except for Bruce being dashing. Mm-hmm. Dashing is good, even though he was simping a little bit for Linda, whatever.
And I like the Matches Malone thing. That was really interesting.
The disguise was great.
There's a weird sort of charm with the way they wrote back then too. I was reading in Comic Scene back when that was a thing way back in the day. Mm-hmm. They were talking about the writing in the 80s versus the writing in the gold and silver age, specifically in the gold age, where like I said, Superman would be flying in the ocean, like we'd just come up with just weird ideas. Superman would fly over the ocean, all of a sudden the sea monster would pop up, like shoot him with these kryptonite eye beams and render him powerless, and he'd fall in the ocean and have to survive out in the ocean. The monster would go away. He said, but like now, you would have to explain all that, like where was this monster? Why did it attack Superman? Why did it know Superman was there? Why did it have the powers that could depower Superman? Why didn't it finish him off? And that just shows a progression of sophistication, both of the art and the audience for the art.
Yeah.
And also, again, I mentioned it several times, Batman's utility belt was present, but not in use. So again,
gadgets are suddenly there and then they're not. We established things and then we forget that we had them.
It's the brightest thing on it. It's the shiny gold thing. It attracts so much attention, and it's just such a shame that and like I said, I'll have to watch the rest of the serial. Maybe he gets into it because they have touched on elements of Batman lore, but it's such an integral part of what he does. To not see them use it is a real shame. And it's kind of nice that when we get into Batman 69, that like even though they're campy, they take the idea of the utility belt and everything to the nth degree.
Yes,
so it got ignored before. We're really going to use this thing here.
Yeah, and one thing I would have liked to have seen more is Batman as a detective, actually solving crimes, using, mythology to find things, taking out clues. Oh, yeah, this is where, the base is because I found this little thing here. And, these kinds of things that are in the comics, and are just missing from these serials and even a lot of the later films.
Yeah, another thing that surprisingly the campy Batman does well.
Mm-hmm.
Batman
It does well, but that's more of a testament to the character, I think. Mm-hmm. And then also, like I think Bracy said, Batman is here more of an annoyance, more of a crime interferer than a crime fighter or stopper. And
he is truly a vigilante here.
But it's funny with his relationship with the police. They're like, well, we can't catch him, but we'll take the fruit of his labors. Oh, okay. Well, he's doing the job for you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll just arrest this guy because Batman wrote us a note.
Because Batman said, well, we're just going to take, his word for it that it's actually Batman. So once and for all, let me state unequivocally that I am not a comics purist. I'm a character purist, but but I understand that characters have to evolve. That is inevitable. That is necessary. And it's kind of ridiculous to try to hold them to certain things. So when I say I'm a character purist, what I mean is what I've always meant, which is there are certain things the character has come to mean. That's why I want to look at these serials, because almost none of the things Batman has come to me are present here. But over time, there are certain core elements, because most of the mythology is piecemeal. There are certain core elements that kind of grow from that evolvement. And it amazes me when people try to make the argument that they want to evolve the character to this other thing while ignoring the elements that stuck.
Yeah.
We know as writers and fans, what happens is they try different things in different time periods, and some stuff sticks and some stuff falls away. Like Superman's wacky unlimited power set in the Silver Age, where he could make a little miniature duplicate of himself the size of the atom, where he had rainbow vision powers. I keep telling people the Donner films are Silver Age. You can't enjoy them unless you understand those are Silver Age films, because Superman ripping off his shield and it's a cellophane.
Yeah, that was all pre-crisis.
Right. And it's a cellophane, cloak or whatever. That's Silver Age stuff. Just making up stuff because it's goofy. Okay. So that's what I mean when I say I am, once and for all, I am all for understanding and supportive of character involvement. But just like with the 80 years of history we already have, not every choice is a good one, and not every choice is going to stick, and not every choice actually adds something of value to the character. And so, we're not trying to keep them stuck back on a previous version. I wouldn't want this version of Batman now on a continual basis. I like all the things that have been added, but a lot of the stuff that they added again didn't stick. It's the stuff that stuck that has defined the character in modern day. And
The
that's
core
the
elements have to remain consistent.
Yes, and that's the stuff you have to be aware of and keep in mind as you take the character to the next phase of involvement, whatever that might look like. For example, Superman having a regular family is fine with me. I'm like, they finally got to the point where we're like, we can't keep making Lois being so stupid she can't see that Clark is Superman. And I'm like, it's little things. I'm like, if you know anything about someone you're in a tight relationship with, she knows you're, fresh out the shower smell. She knows, there's this line in Superman Returns where Lois says, "I forgot you were so warm." How could you not feel that next to Clark? I mean, just so many things. So we can't pull off Lois not being in the know. So great. Yeah. Now Lois knows. And then since she knows, we can't pull off, she can't have a baby because the baby would kill her. So on Superman and Lois or Supergirl, they had a good workaround. They had him go to Kandor under a red sun. So the baby is conceived normally. So there's no yellow sun to activate the child's powers. That's cool. And now, at least for a while, we had Little John Kent and we had Super Sons, which was one of my favorite books. But now all of a sudden they've artificially aged John and they took away him being a kid and they skipped all that period and his camaraderie with Damon. And now he's a different kind of Superman. And what always amazes me is that they're always trying to do stuff that is either a self-insert or a spit in the face of what was. And I'm like, can't you write anything beside them two? You don't have to spit on what was. And if you wish you were Superman, that's cool. We all wish we were Superman. But he wouldn't act like that.
It's a shame because we have these characters, the oldest characters, Batman, Superman, for 80 years. And in that time, you're going to go through many writers, many ideas, many versions, many time periods. And that's one thing I will say that appeals to me about the manga is it's the vision of a singular creator, which can go on for many decades. But like once that guy, in most cases, die, like the creator of Berserk, I don't know if it's going to go on past that. But when I look at things I've enjoyed, like One Piece or Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, there is a consistency because it's one person's vision over the decades, and you can appreciate it. And but it's a toss up because then like I know one day that's going to go away, whereas like these characters have spanned like anywhere from 50 years to 80 years. And I'm glad for that fact because we've gotten so many amazing writers and artists over the course of that history, but we've also had to balance that out with like a lot of bad as well.
Well, at this point, again, talking about things that stuck versus things that didn't, at this point, nobody will accept an incompetent Batman.
Yeah.
No one will accept
the problem is that they sometimes go a little too far the other way with it. Like they can't accept the idea of Batman being in any way fallible or making a mistake ever.
Yeah.
And I think you need to have a certain amount of that to have a story.
That's right. That's right. And no one will accept a Batman that has normal level intelligence.
Yeah.
Somebody was writing something on Twitter. It's like it was something to the effect of like what's a statement that like makes fans mad. A true statement about a character that makes fans mad, or like a statement in opposition to a character. And I wrote down that Batman with prep time can beat anybody.
Yeah.
That's just BS.
I am so tired of that. So tired of it.
Well,
I love Nightwing to the end of the earth, but he can lose to people.
Yeah, no, he can definitely lose, and he needs to lose sometimes because you just would lose your edge if winning was easy and a foregone conclusion. Anybody knows that. So I'm excited about continuing these series because we'll see these different shades of him. There will be a transition in the 80s where the suit becomes a thing, because up until then it was the man in the spandex. And then with Keaton's Batman, that shifts. It's very, very interesting. And then with the animated series, they go back to a better version of what we just saw. And say with Adam West Batman, which is the latex or
media.
Yeah. So this is going to be a fascinating study. I'm really excited about it. Okay, we're going to call it there. I want to thank my co-host. Thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, thank you. This was a pretty fun discussion to have, and a really interesting look at Batman that I don't think most people are going to get. And I'll just give out a shout out to Nemesis, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but hopefully he'll be back with us soon.
Thank you so much, Bracy.
Yes, indeed. Glad to be here, of course, and I'm glad that we started with this because the Batman serials. I look at the still photos, and the still photos look pretty cheesy, and there's some cheese in here, but I'm glad that we started here and reviewed it because I did enjoy it, and I do want to finish out the series.
That's right, because the appeal of the character is almost unlimited. There's just a few comic book characters we can say that about. Batman and Spider-Man being the highest two, that there's almost no context we don't want to see them in, and there's almost no medium they haven't succeeded in. So as we continue to study these presentations, we're going to really get down to the heart of why that's the case.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
if you look at like MCU Spider-Man, that is not the Spider-Man from the comics. He's very much like this Batman. They've taken away all of his backstory. The whole tragedy, all that's been glossed over. He's like future Iron Man. So, but he still works in that context.
Still works. That's right. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to those of you that will see this on my page on a live stream, and then we'll be on YouTube on Comic Crusaders with the official version of this. And we'll be back next time and talk about another media presentation of Batman. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Sloppy Spoilers.
Spoilers.